Hey now, it's Brace for Impact, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm going solo on that ass, but it's still the same. We're talking TNA wrestling, and we have some breaking news.
Breaking news.
Okay, well, the news broke like 12 hours ago, but I'm just now getting a chance to talk about it. And I really like to use my buttons. I don't get to use them very often. Yeah, if you're listening to this, thank you very much. Thank you for being here. This one went out to both Patreon and YouTube. It's going to be a short video. No, you're not going to get to see my face, unfortunately, because it's a little late and I'm tired, and I did not feel like putting up my putting up my light. And I'm wearing my, like, I don't wear pajamas, but I wear kind of like loose fitting gym clothes to bed. I just didn't feel like getting on anything else. So yeah, no video, but I am going to put this on YouTube. So thanks. If you're watching this on YouTube, please give a thumbs up. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you're a subscriber, and please think about heading over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. You could have had this to your inbox first thing in the morning, and all the audio, no ads, no nothing like that. That's the best way to support the show. Anyway, so the Hardy Boys have re-signed with TNA. I think there were some people out there that thought maybe that they would be going back to the WWE, and I thought there was a remote possibility, but they really are perfect for TNA, and in a good way. Like, I think TNA needs them, and I think they need TNA. I think they're like, this has been a good marriage. They're difference makers in this company, and a lot of people didn't think they would be, because the run with AEW just didn't go well. And that left a sour taste in a lot of AEW fans' mouths, and they were kind of bashing the Hardys and saying a bunch of nonsense about them. But since they have come over to TNA, they have been huge difference makers. Huge difference makers. Now, they weren't at Slammiversary, so we can't really, like, Matt was at Slammiversary, so, but you can't really give them like credit for that. That was PCO, and to a lesser extent Speedball, and then obviously Joe Hendry getting hot. But that, I think it was Under Siege that Matt Hardy headlined with Moose there. That was like the biggest crowd they had ever had in Cicero Stadium. And if I were TNA, when they go back to Chicago this coming up year, and they will go back to Chicago, I would strongly suggest running that Wintrust Arena for a pay-per-view. I would just give it a shot. Because they had so many people in that Cicero Stadium that they actually got in trouble by the fire marshal, and it was headlined by Matt Hardy. And then the big surprise reveal was Jeff Hardy returns, and that place just came unglued when he returned there. And the Hardys have been on a roll ever since. Now, tough that they can't go overseas. I mean, obviously Matt can, but Jeff can't, so that does kind of limit some things. But you take a look at Victory Road. They were a big part of Victory Road, and that was over 2,000 tickets. They headlined Bound for Glory this year, and they did over 3,000 tickets. Bound for Glory, I don't know what the latest count is, but they're on their way to get to about 30,000 pay-per-view buys, and those are all really strong numbers for TNA, and the Hardys are at the forefront of that. This latest taping in Fayetteville, North Carolina, they were in and around 1,000 each night, and they didn't get there right away, but they had, as soon as TNA sent the Hardys to go do local press, tickets started to move. Right now, I don't know how many they actually sold versus comped, but the fact of the matter is, this company has had a problem with getting people into the buildings, free or paid, either one. They've had a problem for a long time. And the Hardy Boys, and I'm going to give a lot of credit to Joe Hendry as well, getting hot over the summer has been a real big deal to this company. So I feel like this has been a really good signing. This is a really good signing for TNA, a strong signing for TNA. And I think this is good for the Hardys too, because I think that if they went to the WWE, and there's a chance that they could at the end of this deal, they would get like a nostalgia pop, a couple of matches, and then that would be it. But at least here with TNA, like, they're legitimate difference makers. They're an important part of the company, and the company really needs them. And I think they really need this company. But let's hear what Matt has to say about it. So Sports Illustrated broke the news, so it was kind of a press release via Sports Illustrated. But Matt says it's exciting for us. We really believe in the direction TNA is going. They have a lot of big plans for 25. They've taken great care of us. They put myself and Jeff in positions to succeed, and that's an important part. Because I don't think their last two stops, those companies did that. Jeff gets the blame for the AEW run. I totally get it. But I think TNA is really using them they're like an old rock and roll band, right? And they come out and they're playing the hits each week, and it's getting over. And we don't need them to do anything crazy. We don't need them to do a ton. Although freaking Jeff, of course, tried to kill himself during the Full Metal Mayhem. It's because he's a crazy person. But for the most part, like their matches are always really fun, heated, really good action. They don't overstay their welcome, and they typically send the crowd home happy. Even when they lose, the heels get their comeuppance in the end. They're perfect for this company. He said, which we're grateful for. We love the crew, from the boys and the girls in the locker room to the management. Everyone and everything is really clicking right now. It feels like the unity is strong and the brand is growing again. I see a lot of upward mobility for TNA over the course of the next year. Jeff and I will be a part of that for the next year. So there's another key point for the next year. So Steve Munchausen, I don't know what the hell his name is, but that guy was full of shit on some scoops, but he has worked his way up into getting a deal with Sports Illustrated. So good for him. But Munchausen said that, or Mulhausen. Steve Millhouse said that the terms of the deal were not disclosed. Well, I think Matt just disclosed part of the deal, that it's for the next year. So I think that they're signed through probably the end of 2025. Like just did like a 1-year deal, which that's completely fine. He goes on to say that they worked on a handshake deal all the way through to winning the titles and having the titles for a month. Says it's been a great relationship with the trust between us and TNA management. Everything they have said they were going to do, they followed through with. Everything we said we were going to do, we followed through with. It just feels right. Jeff was adamant about it. Jeff is really enjoying his run in TNA. He's feeling confident. Last week we were in Fayetteville, where we won our first major set of World Tag Team titles, which was in July of 1999. So the interview went on from there, but I thought that was probably the most interesting part of it. But yeah, man, I think this is a really big deal for TNA. Did it warrant me doing a breaking news audio? No, I just happened to be available. And so I thought I would just go ahead and do it. Because I didn't feel like waiting till Saturday to talk about it, because I'm going to have 2 shows to recap. So I'll just talk a little bit of the news here. So stay tuned for Saturday morning. So if you guys are unfamiliar, if you're just checking this out on YouTube, you guys like to watch my YouTube videos from Brace for Impact, where I chop up parts of the show. What I do is I record that live on Saturday. And I typically have, folks in the chat. They're pitching ideas, they're pitching their opinions, and I address them, and we have a good back and forth. So that's what a lot of that show is. You guys are only getting really a chunks of it. But if you want the full experience, head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show and become a Patreon subscriber. You can be a part of it. But a couple more news stories here. So last Saturday, I was talking about the TNA ratings. And for a long time, I just quit talking about them, because it was like hit or miss whether or not we were actually going to get those ratings revealed, because they were just so far outside of the top 150. And then, of course, Showbuzz Daily went out of business, or they just stopped doing them. I think the guy that was doing it was doing all that work and effort and not getting any money in return. So, it's like, dude, I totally get it. I would have stopped too. That's pretty bogus, because a lot of us were making hay off his back. So we really lost our access to those numbers. Well, there's a new game in town called Spoiler TV. The problem is I just can't figure out how to use the website. So I just quit covering the ratings altogether. And plus, they weren't really getting rated. Like, the ratings were so low that they actually wouldn't show up in the charts. And on Saturday, I talked about some of the ratings that had been revealed, but I said I couldn't confirm that any of this was true because I just hadn't seen it myself. That last part is still the case, but I did talk to Jedi Goodman, and he verified that these numbers are legit. So on November 7th, they had 85,000. November 14th, 108,000. But we don't have a demo rating for that one. So it must have been probably about a 0.01. And that's usually what you never get a 0 rating. So it had to have been like a 0.01. So we're probably talking like less than 20,000 people in the demo were watching, but they actually had a bigger audience than the previous week. And then, of course, last week's show was 99,000 with a 0.02 rating. So there you go. That's the last three. I just wanted to clarify that those numbers are legit now. I have been able to fact check those things. So I still can't figure out Spoiler TV though. So if somebody's listening to this can figure that website out, I would appreciate it. And if you can't, we'll just keep on top of Jedi Goodman, who I believe just subscribes to that website, and he just posts the info as it becomes available. The reason why there was a discrepancy is because he never posted the 14th rating. Oh my gosh, sorry about that, guys. He never posted the 14th rating. And I think that's because it didn't come out like the next day. It probably came out the following week. So that's probably why that is. So anyway, guys, that's it for the ratings talk. I wanted to just clarify that. Also this week, Ying Lee, it was officially announced that she has signed. And if you're like me and you're kind of curious as to exactly what happened, because I thought she was already signed. So they just never gave her the graphic. I don't know why they waited till now, or maybe they were working on a handshake for a little bit. And the two sides finally were able to come to an agreement. But earlier this week, I think it was just yesterday. Yeah, I think it was just yesterday that Ying Lee, it was announced that she has officially signed with TNA. I don't know how long. A lot of these deals are usually like anywhere from 6 months to 2 years for talent that kind of already have a name. Although, like, let's not pretend that she's this big name. She was not like a big star in WWE. She had a run on NXT, and that was about it. She didn't do a whole lot. So I don't want anybody thinking that this lady is some big deal, real deal Holyfield. She is kind of another person off that WWE scrap heap, although she looks to be pretty good. I will say that. I think that she's going to be a decent addition to the roster. The Knockouts sure could use her, especially with Jordan Grace departing here pretty soon. And, it looks like they might have brought in Maggie. Gosh, I'm going to mess up her name. Maggie Moore. I think her name's either Maggie Moore or Maggie Lee. I think she rotates those names. But I think they brought her in. They're bringing her into around for a little bit. But the big signing would be Ying Lee. She's from what I've seen her, she's really good. So I look forward to seeing more of Ying Lee. But lastly, now this is not an AEW topic, but JD and I recorded on Monday night, and I am not able to. We're not going to get a chance to talk until like next week. So I wanted to go and talk about what's going on with Ricky Starks. So Ricky Starks showed up in Game Changer Wrestling over the weekend, and he had booked himself, apparently without permission from AEW, several upcoming GCW shows, to include the Hammerstein show on January 19th, which, if you're keeping score, is not only going to go up against TNA Genesis, but that's like head-to-head with a Collision. And, well, because of some stuff that Effie says, he got pulled from all GCW shows going forward. And now it says that now the word is that no AEW talent is going to be allowed on GCW shows, with exception to very clearly Bloodsport, because they did have Bloodsport talent over the weekend. AEW has been featured on Bloodsport since Bloodsport came back during the pandemic. I don't think that's going to change. People think that people are asking about Moxley. Moxley does whatever the fuck Moxley wants, according to Joey Janela. So Moxley might still be doing some GCW stuff and probably Blake Christian, but for the most part, AEW talent is not going to be on Game Changer Wrestling because of the behavior of one Effie. Effie was on his podcast, and he was talking about the whole situation, and he was pretty frustrated, and I bet the entire crew in Game Changer is pretty frustrated about they announced their Hammerstein Ballroom show for the 19th of January, and they were the first ones to announce it, and they think they're good to go, and then next thing you know, AEW announces 3 shows a month ahead of time, 1 month before the Hammerstein show. And that's really going to be detrimental to Game Changer Wrestling. Now, AEW does not owe GCW anything, and they've always lent their talent over there. So I'm not saying that AEW did anything bad. They just booked a venue, and that's it. All they did was just book a venue, and it just so happened to be a month ahead of time of the Hammerstein. And that's just the way it goes sometimes. Like, there's not really anything you can do about it. And I understand why they would be disappointed and frustrated, because that is absolutely going to take away from their show. But that's just the business. That's it. There's nothing anybody could do about it. So it doesn't really behoove you to go out there whining. And what Effie did is he decided to go ahead and take personal shots at Tony Khan and Shad Khan, Tony Khan's dad. And I think that blew the whole deal. And that's what the report from Fightful Select is saying. So here, let's just play this audio from this dipshit Effie. Here you go.
This way, my company, I don't run a company. Our company, GCW can't run on a $40 million deficit and continue to run shows. But some of us have the privilege of being able to run at a $40 million deficit.
Brett doesn't own a football team?
Brett does not own a football team. Brett doesn't have a dad who pays him to stay away. I don't want this to be a personal thing. Like, I don't, but hey, guys, you're not the only game in town. This way,
yeah, so that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, Ricky Starks can do other independent dates. He just can't do Game Changer Wrestling. And this whole thing's a big fuck you from Tony Khan to Game Changer. And I'll be honest, I don't blame him one freaking bit. I don't. That, them getting pissy, them going public and getting upset about it, they should have handled that business behind closed doors, right? And tried to figure something out, maybe moved their dates. But they decided to go public and talk some shit. And then the first video was just them being frustrated, or it was Effie, them. I should just say it's just Effie being frustrated at AEW booking the Hammerstein. And then the second video, he's taking shots at him being a rich kid, and then his dad gives him money to stay away. It's like, okay. Like, that video comes out and Tony Khan's like, nah, go fuck yourself. And I would have done the same thing. Because, look, Game Changer ran Hammerstein before, and the only reason anybody came to that thing is because Jon Moxley was on the card. They have benefited from AEW allowing their talent to work independent dates for a long time. And to be honest with you, GCW does not have a great reputation. They're not safe. They use light tubes in the ring, and it's not always completely clean. There's a lot of issues over there. It's kind of the Wild West. And so, for that alone, you should really think twice about, whether or not you want to let your talent work for them. But now they're coming out talking shit. It's like, sorry, dude. Like, you've been able to use AEW talent for the most part. Now, Joey Janela says that talent has been barred from working Game Changer for a long time. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Collision came out and they're on Saturdays, and Game Changer runs a lot of Saturdays. So it's like difficult for them to get over there anyway. But Like this is a straight up, like legit ban at this point. Tony does not want his people working Game Changer Wrestling. And because of this, and because of, look, legit safety concerns with that company, they're legitimate. I'm, I try not to side with a billionaire. I always like to go with the smaller company, but in this instance, it's like your mouth overloaded your ass, boy. Sorry, shouldn't have done it. Brett needs to probably wrangle that guy in, but Brett probably doesn't pay Effie enough money to be able to get him to shut his stupid mouth. But that's just the way it is, man. But yeah, guys, that is going to do it for me this week on this kind of special edition of Brace for Impact. Brace for Impact with a hint of AEW talk there towards the end. Speaking of AEW talk, JD posted a podcast in a car on his way home from Dynamite and Collision. They did a double taping tonight, so check that out. That's on Patreon already. That is not going anywhere, only on Patreon, so go ahead and check that out. Again, I also posted my newest podcast, The Witching Hour, and that aired. It's been on Patreon for a day or two. I'm probably going to release it on YouTube later in the week. That way everybody gets a chance to check it out. But I'm going to leave you guys with the intro video for The Witching Hour, my new paranormal UFO conspiracy, cryptid, unexplained phenomenon, whatever you guys want to make of it. Or as my buddy Junkyard Akiyama said, Coast to Coast with Mike Gilbert. No, it's the Witching Hour with Mike Gilbert. That's my new gimmick, The Witching Hour. Just trying to give you guys a variety of content here, not only on the Patreon, but on the YouTube. So but that's out. I will be recording episode 2 here pretty soon. I already have episode 3 lined up. I'm going to start working on trying to get guests for that too here pretty soon. So that should be a fun thing for me to do. But here is the intro video for for The Witching Hour with Mike Gilbert. And until next time, mahalo.